Hi everybody, my name's Alan. On behalf of the crew, I'd like to welcome you to another edition of Bridging Heaven and Earth. You know, when I sit here and wait, to start the show, I get a lot of different feelings and experiences and, thoughts and just energies and vibration coming from the audience and the crew and the guests. And, it's basically this spot is, where the focus of the attention is for this period of time. When we do the bridging shows on the set here. And as I was sitting here today, the feeling I was getting was of real humbleness, a real sense of, I talk about this a lot, about the bridging shows and about the energy we try to, or we do set out to have here and to spread to the world, a vibration of unconditional love, of the infinite, of inclusiveness. And how lucky and fortunate and blessed we are to come together like this again. We've been doing this for a lot of Earth years. And a lot of the same people who started on this journey of dedicated to the oneness, dedicated to love, dedicated to collaboration, to creativity, are still in this room, are still sharing their incredible time and attention and gifts and energy to bring us all together. Because in essence, all this is about is bringing us all together. So that together, collectively and collaboratively and creatively, we can all feel love and share it. Because ultimately as human beings, that's it. How can we be truly happy? How can we get to the root? How can we get to the heart of what it is, the core of what it is to be a human being? And when people come to that core, when the people come to that root, when people come to that heart, throughout history, the teachers and masters and gurus basically have had one message: that love is the question and love is the answer. That in that place of unconditional love, in that place, in that root, in that heart, we as human beings can experience ourselves as infinite. We as human beings can experience ourselves as included in everything that is. And when more and more of us have that experience, as we are now, at this time on this earth, the opportunity is for us to really come together and feel love and share it as a collective, as a group, as an earth. And what magic we can make. As we experience that, first we can bring the magic back, the joy, the love to be in this human body, to share this incredible planet Earth with so many other unbelievable beings of human and animal and plant and mountain and stream and however you describe it, variety. And how blessed and fortunate we are, again, to be able to be in some level of recognition of that, in some realization of why we're here as human beings. And we're here to feel the love and share it. And the opportunities have probably never been greater now. We were talking earlier, the opportunities available through, modern media, social media, however you describe it, through the Googles and YouTubes and Vimeos and Twitters and Facebooks. And they're part of the earth, so something's gained and something's lost. But the opportunity, if we're looking for that vibration, that connection, that recognition, that realization of who and what we really are, of our oneness, it is available. Every one of these bridging shows that we've done for almost 20 years now are available all over the world 24/7 for free if you have an internet connection. And the guests that come in from all over the world, all their information in one way, an ebook here, a video here, is available all over the world. And most of it is either free or very reasonably priced. And the opportunity is to feel the love and share it together, to come together all over this planet and be in recognition of us as brothers and sisters, as us, as part of that oneness, of us as being that oneness. And that's what the great teachers and masters and gurus have said. When Jesus said the Father and I are one, the Goddess and I are one, he had an experience of oneness, of truth, of that unconditional vibration, that infinite vibration. And he knew that he wasn't the only one, that that was what it was to be a human being in fulfillment, in recognition. So, again, this show is about feeling the love and sharing it, coming together. Tonight's guest, Matthew Pallamary, is, was actually a previous Bridging guest. We actually checked. He was on, 10, 12 years ago on Bridging show number 122. So if you want to see, Matthew and I about 10, 12 years ago, go to, either Vimeo, YouTube, and look at this show. And Matt, speaking of his passion, his desires that he's been dedicated to literally every day, every breath since then. He's an author, he's a shamanic explorer, he's a spiritual healer. And what he talked about on that show was the beginning of that, his historical novel, Land Without Evil, which was about the first contact with the shamans and Jesuits in 18th century South America. And it's received unbelievably rave reviews at the beginning and over these years. And it's just been adopted not too long ago into a full-length stage and sky show, which we're going to show some video footage of. That's so beautiful and so powerful. And Land Without Evil is now in development as a feature film. A very powerful opening, a very powerful first calling in a sense. I think he's written before that, but this was the first big splash that Matt made about that desire to know, that experience of knowing, that infinite, that oneness, that breaking the barriers of the finite, coming into the infinite. And he's written many other books, The Infinity Zone, The Small Dark Room of the Soul, Spirit Matters, Dreamland, incredibly prolific and incredibly powerful books and short stories of that journey into knowing, that journey into love, that journey into oneness. And as most of you know on the Bridging shows, we usually show art, music videos, videos of the guests, videos of singers and songwriters and dancers and musicians of that same energy, that energy of love, that energy, that a different spoke on the wheel, but the same connection, the same dedication to that feeling love and sharing. So tonight, as I mentioned earlier, we have two sections of this Land Without Evil. This beautiful theatrical production was done. One is the trailer of it, and one is a certain scene of it that I'm sure Matt will describe as well. And it also, as most of you know, we're in the middle of an extraordinary international healing art project that came to us here at Bridging as a dream, as a vision, as an healing the heart of the planet, healing that disconnection to bring us back to the magic, back to the wholeness of what we really are. And we would reach out to the world and say that we would be so honored and delighted to use the Bridging distribution system that goes out all over the world on cable television, on satellite, on Sky Channel, on all over the internet, and Vimeo and YouTube and all other types of video distribution systems. And anybody who produces a new original piece based on the theme Bridging Heaven and Earth, any size, any format, any shape, any skill level, any age, get it to us here in Santa Barbara. We'll put it on the Bridging shows. We'll have art project shows. We have an extraordinary healing art website, which is heaventoearthart.com, heaventoearthart.com. And as I've said many times, if you want to really be uplifted or empowered, inspired, go to Heaven to Earth Art and go page after page after page after page. And as of right now, we've probably received well over 480 already manifested pieces, all new original pieces based on the theme Bridging Heaven and Earth. And you can go to the gallery page, and we're up to the 41st page with 12 on a page. and just go page after page and click on them, literally from the ages of 2 to 92, from literally hundreds of countries all over the world, and they all send them here. We just received in this last period 4 pieces from Costa Rica, 4 incredible pieces, all framed. Just, you could feel that love, you can feel that healing, you could feel that dedication. And we have, big art exhibits coming up in the Santa Barbara area. We show this art on every show. Everyone is welcome to join us. No skill level required, just the desire to be part of the creativity, the collaboration, the healing, and the love. So everyone is welcome. So just check it out, and if you feel moved, there are phone numbers, there are emails that you can reach out to us. We'll give you all the information. But everyone is welcome, and the more people involved, the better the healing. And tonight, Matthew has done 2 really powerful computer-enhanced photographs that you'll see. Just very, very powerful images that will be in between Matt and I during the interviews, and you'll get a chance to see those. And then we'll get Matt to describe, what it meant to him to shoot these images and what they mean to him and all that. So again, we've come together again, and we have this opportunity again, as we have every breath of every day, to dedicate, to experience, to feel that connection, to come into that connection. If we're not feeling it, the prayer to that connection, that we are love, that the Goddess and I, the Father and I, are one. We can have that experience in this human body at this time. So, and let's all do it together, and let's have fun together, and let's be joyous and loving in creating these new paradigms that will carry us into a world where love is the question and love is the answer. And we'll put fear aside, we'll put separation aside, and we'll come into the fullness of who and what we really are, which is love. So join me in a short meditation, then we'll have, the first part of Matt's incredible videos, and then we'll have Matt and Art, and the opportunity for another set of infinite moments to be in love. So join me in a short meditation. Thank you. So as I said, the first video tonight will be the live preview of this theatrical, incredibly powerful. I mean, you can get to see the whole thing, on Matt's website, and I'm sure we'll talk about it later. It's Land Without Evil. This is the live preview. Enjoy. Hi everybody, welcome back. So that was very powerful. So we're here with the creator of that book and a big part of that theatrical production. Welcome, Matt.
Thank you for having me.
It's been a while, so it's good to have you back. So why don't you talk a little about, the theatrical production of Land Without Evil, how they found the book, and just a little bit, and maybe we'll talk more later on after they see the big section of it.
Sure. I was very blessed to have a wonderful collaborator, Sarah Agent Red Johnson, who goes by Agent Red, and she's a world-class aerialist. And she had an accident where she shattered both of her wrists and cracked her head open. They said she'd never get up on the aerial silks again. And she was very depressed, and she was actually suicidal. She was so depressed because her career was ended. And she read the book, and she was very inspired by it. And so she called me and said, I'd love to do a show around your book. And I'm like, oh, hold a gun to my head, I'm down with that. And she said, there's really no money involved, but we have some dedicated people. And I had no idea how dedicated they were. So she took key scenes from the book, she chopped out a script, and then she and I collaborated on that script and honed it up. And then it was put on in Austin, and they did an amazing, amazing job. And the making of the show was filmed by KPBS, KLRU, by an awesome director, Emmy Award-winning director by the name of Mario Trancoso, for this series called Arts in Context in Austin, which is about collaboration in the arts. And that particular episode went on to be nominated for an Emmy. There were 30 people in the cast and crew. There were 30 people in the crew and 20 people in the cast. And 50 people dedicated themselves to doing the wonderful experience that the viewers have been seeing. We can get more into the details of that when we do the next segment after we see a second thing. But I wanted to really give a shout out to Agent Red. She's now doing what she calls crash alchemy. And she's a really gifted producer and director. And as a result of all that, she got back up on the aerial silks and she's performing again. And it was all inspired around the work. So it was gratifying on multiple levels. And they really joined their artistic talents together. And every show and every rehearsal was done as a ceremony. And as you see part of the videos, there's a ceremonial aspect to it. So it was a really wonderful, gratifying blessing of an experience. The last thing I want to mention, because you and I were talking about this, is that it's unusual to have a novel adapted into a stage show, for starters. It's even more unusual to have it into an aerial stage show with acrobats and things. The most unusual part about it is that my mother, who is up there in heaven, she's looking right now, she was a famous child acrobat. So her presence was very much there throughout the whole show, and it was a very powerful experience on levels I really can't even begin to articulate. Wow. So it was a good thing.
No, you could really feel the powerful energy involved.
Yeah.
It was very incredible. And the piece of art that people have wondered that you did for the International Healing Art Project called the Infinity Zone is sitting in between us, and everyone's wondering, why aren't they talking about that? He usually talks about that first. But we wanted to talk about the video a little. Why don't you start talking about the Infinity Zone and this piece of incredible healing art?
Yeah, thank you. This was very much inspired by spirituality. And this was inspired by a book that I wrote with my collaborator, a gentleman by the name of Paul Mayberry. And infinity is everywhere, and it's tied in with sacred geometry and the works of Rudolf Steiner. And I wrote a paper called A Theory of the Evolution of Consciousness. And it was published in a thing called the Drunken Boat Anthology. And through friends, my collaborator on this particular book, Paul Mayberry, he heard about me and he wanted to write a book because he developed a thing called the 8-board. And Paul is a brainiac. He's like Einstein. He's a crazy brainiac. He's not an articulator. I'm an articulator because I'm a writer. Paul is just a brainiac. He's an idea guy. And when he saw what I wrote, he got very excited and we had these long discussions. And when we started getting into it, the whole idea for the book came to me like channeled. I was inspired. The whole thing, it wrote itself. The best things write themselves. When I'm really inspired, I set the ego aside and I open up the channel and it just comes. And this book wrote itself. So when I got really into the writing and everything really flowed, and Paul said that then he saw me going into mad scientist mode, And he said, I just backed off and let you go. I saw what was going on. And it was a wonderful collaboration, energetically balanced. So then when we started thinking about a cover, I've been writing for over 30 years. I've been teaching for over 25 at the Santa Barbara Writers Conference, the Southern California Writers Conference. And my stuff has always been around spirituality and fantastic metaphysical, supernatural elements. So the cover was very important, and I wanted something that really said the message that was in the book and gave the essence and the energy. So I found the star field is actually the Pleiades. And it was a very, very high resolution thing taken from the Hubble Space Telescope. And then they were just talking about the 8 board, and they just said the 8 board, the 8 board. And when I started getting into the mathematics of it and the philosophy of it, infinity popped right up. Because infinity says everything. I mean, a friend of mine has a bumper sticker, and it says, the center of the universe is right between your eyes. I love it, because we are the point where spirit and matter meets. We are it. Everything is here, and we have as much going on inside of us as outside of us, and as you well know, it's infinite in both directions. So the infinity seemed very important because it had multiple levels. So I found the infinity symbol, and I positioned it on there, and it was one of those wonderful artistic accidents working in Photoshop where it popped out, and I was just like, wow, I was blown away. And so the picture came, and I put it together, and it was part of the whole process, the creative process of writing, where it really happened on its own. I want to be very clear here. I don't consider myself a genius, or anything of that nature.
We have this expression: whatever you think you are, you're more.
Yeah, right. We are far more than we are.
So whatever you genius or not genius, you're more than that. So.
Right, but the reason I brought that up is because they asked all the geniuses that they could find the one thing that they could all seem to have in common, and every one of them said, it wasn't me. So that's the point I want to make, is it wasn't me. I mean, this really just came through and it channeled. So the whole concept of the infinity zone, aside from the spiritual aspects of it, spirit's first, the rest follows. But it's the fact that it follows perfect form and motion. And it has to do with the mathematics of the body, and it has to do with the fact that the body follows sacred geometry. And sacred geometry, for me and for many other people, is truth that is self-apparent just by looking at it. So the body is made to work in a particular way. Now, Paul Mayberry, my collaborator, and his partner, Jack Browdy, have a company called Grail Sports. And Paul is the inventor of the 8 board, which I'll just show you very quickly here. It's like 2 turntables, and you stand on them, and you move, and it gives you perfect form and motion, the way that the body is designed to work. So Paul developed this from the mathematics of Rudolf Steiner. And he's a tennis pro, and he teaches people. And everybody who he taught started teaching with the 8 board. Their tennis game just went up dramatically in a very short period of time because it taught the figure 8 movement, and it even has to do with projective geometry. And it taught the body to move in the best way. And you got the perfect tennis stroke with the least amount of effort and the most amount of power. And it's all based on this sacred geometry. And it goes back to literally prehistoric times. And in the Temple of Luxor at Egypt, there is a whole temple. It's called the Temple of Man. And it's a mathematically precise map of the human body. In fact, it's called the Temple of the Anthropocosmic Man. And they say that the mathematics of the human body are actually a map of the cosmos. And if you look at it, for me, through all my experiences, everything is holographic. So the microcosm is in the macrocosm, and it just goes on infinite, right? So in that particular thing, everything about the bilateralness of the human body and the golden mean, phi, all of those things are inherent in the human body, and they're also inherent in the cosmos. So the map of the body is a map of the cosmos, according to prehistoric beliefs, ancient Egyptian and other cultures worldwide. The reason I'm leading up to this is because it ties in with the theme of the show also, and that is that the human body is a map of the cosmos. In shamanic thought and in ancient Egyptian thought, the heart is the center of the universe. The heart is the center of our body. The heart is the sun. And the sun of our solar system is the giver of life. And there's a wonderful poem by, if I remember correctly, 13th century poet, Hafez. And he says, even after all this time, the sun never once says to the earth, you owe me. Look what happens with a love like that. It lights up the whole sky. So in this shamanic belief, an ancient belief, the heart being the center, then everything that comes out from it is orbiting it. But without the heart, there is no life. Spiritually and shamanically, the sun that is the center of our being is connected to the sun that is the giver of life in our solar system. That sun is connected to another sun, to another sun, to another sun, all the way back to source, which is infinite. So what I was trying to convey here, and I think it worked out really well, is the fact that the infinity is coming from all, every one of those stars is a sun. And we are truly, as the song goes, we're dust in the wind compared to it. It's very great and very powerful. So the contrast of it and the color of it, and even the fact that it's gold. Gold on the spiritual path of alchemical transmutation and alchemy is the transformation of lead into gold. And part of the whole alchemical studies through, the mythologies or beliefs, whatever you like to call them, has to do with the fact that if the alchemist learns the chemical formula, so to speak, of transforming lead into gold, their soul is transformed from lead into gold. And that is a spiritual path, because if you follow the path and you really stay on it, no matter which route you take, you will find the gold. And the gold is tied to the sun, and gold is the color of the sun. And I also find it fascinating that gold is one of the heaviest elements, and the sun itself is the lightest. So there's that whole contrast of spirit into matter, and the fact that gold is proof of purification, because pure gold has been purified by fire. Fire is the sun, and fire is an elemental, which is transformative, which is cleansing, and all of those things in the shamanic worldview and in ancient Egyptian thought. So the offset of the gold against the star field and the way it's coming out and all that really struck me. And it's gotten some really wonderful attention. It was featured at the San Diego Library at a local authors exhibit last year, and they picked the cover because it stood out. It also won an International Book Award in the Inspirational New Age category. And it recently got sold for translation rights into Italian. So the biggest New Age publisher in Italy is going to translate it into Italian. So it's making its way. And I think it's because you just look at it and it strikes you. And one of the things about art, as you well know, is how does it strike you conceptually, and how is, symbolism is actually superior to the written word. When you do things with a written word, you have to serialize what you're writing and string it into sentences and communicate, and you may be misunderstood. But when you look at a piece of art, particularly if it has geometry in it, you look at it and it hits you visually and conceptually, as an image. And so it kind of has more power. There is a belief or a concept that they would say, why didn't the Egyptians have a better method of communication than hieroglyphics? Well, hieroglyphics are symbolic for one thing, but one thing that I believe that I've read is that they communicated with their hearts. So because they communicated with their hearts, they didn't need the language. There was more telepathy that went on. And there was more of a connection with people, with each other, through the heart. And in shamanism, the heart is definitely superior to the mind. And in there's a wonderful Russian mystic who I've been studying for years called Gurdjieff. There was Gurdjieff and Uspensky. And Gurdjieff says that, and I believe this, and this is borne out to be true for me in my universe, Gurdjieff says that we come into the world as essence. And then we have to develop a personality in order to function within the world.
And we take it from everything around us, family, fathers, mothers, brothers, whatever, we suck it all up. And we develop a personality, which becomes our ego. What we do is I tend to identify with our egos, and then we think that we are our egos, but we're actually not. Our egos are our creation. And if we go on the path and we stay on the path, then we start to figure out that this is not really true. It's backwards. And if we learn to overcome the ego and the shadow selves and the aspects of ourselves that we deny, then we can shift and reverse and go back to being essence-driven, which are the higher levels of being. And so if you're on the path and you're staying with it and you're truly, I like to think of it as like a warrior for truth, you know, you're really on it. And when you're a warrior for truth, in essence, you're kind of at war with yourself. Then if you continue that way, you'll become more and more, you'll shift the energetic back the way it should be, and you will be more essence-driven, which is the higher consciousness, as opposed to being ego-driven, which is the lower consciousness. So all that ties in, and those things come to be true in experience. One other thing about shamanism is that shamanism is based on direct experience. You can read all the books you want, 6 Waves from Sunday. There's nothing like that. But if you experience something directly, that's real. And that is the essence of what revelation is about. It has to do with what happens to you inside of yourself and the transformation that you bring about within yourself, or that you open yourself up to. I'm really excited the way that this came out with the people that are working with you. And it just blows me away. I'm very, very tickled by it.
So I think what we're going to do now is have that second part of Land Without Evil, the theatrical event, Scene 9.
Yes.
So why don't you, kind of give people a feel for that and what Scene 9 is and how it fits in and all that?
Yeah, okay, so Scene 9, if I remember correctly, is a battle scene. And the story came about is first contact between the Jesuits and the Indians in South America, in Paraguay, but it's told from the Indians' point of view. And so it's all about shamanism. And there was a wonderful movie called The Mission with Robert De Niro, Jeremy Irons, Liam Neeson, 1983 Palme d'Or winner. And it was about, and I was actually most of the way finishing writing the book when I found out that the movie was the same tribe that I was in love with. So that is the whole conflict between how, the major conflict of the book, what the people and the wonderful people in Austin, Agent Red and crew, were really turned on by, for lack of a better word, is the fact that the shamans would dance, and in dancing would channel the spirits of their ancestors. And of course, the missionaries would come in and say, "You're demonic," and "Be gone, demon," and all those things.
Like, devil.
Yeah, exactly, right. and then the Indians were saying, "Well, wait a minute. You go to this house of stone and wood that you've built, and you worship a god, and he never says anything. And here we are channeling our divine inspiration, and you're persecuting us. Our gods are talking to us. Where are yours?" And that's a big theme of it. So it brought about the major conflict of the story. And one of the things that happened in the writing of the story is that it starts off with that conflict between the dancing, and they're having their spiritual ecstasy, for lack of a better word, and the Jesuits coming in and breaking it up. And that in itself is a microcosm of the whole story. If I could too, this is the wonderful cover that was done by my publisher. And there are 2 feathers here. And this is actually was a photograph of a huge broad leaf, and the sun was hitting the leaf and coming through the leaf and the feathers. And the feathers tell the story in a very strong and powerful way between the 2 main characters of the story. And the light is coming through. And in shamanism, and it's another theme of the story, birds are the messengers of spirit. They're the messengers of God. And so your connection with spirit and with divinity in those cultures are done through birds, which fly to the air in feathers and lightness and all those wonderful things that spirit are. So this turned out to be very powerful. And on another woo-woo side note, for lack of better words, I've had very powerful hummingbird experiences in my shamanic journeys and travels and explorations. And one of the characters, the lady character, is named Kuna Mina, which means hummingbird woman. And I did that prior, years before I went into the jungles and did the other things that I've done. So a very good friend of mine once told me that hummingbirds are the nerve endings of God. And so I love that because they move. Interestingly enough, hummingbirds also, they have the biggest hearts in proportion to every animal. And they have the most precise, perfect movement. And guess what? Their wings move in a figure-8 motion. So if you really study the infinity and the figure-8 and those things in nature, you'll see it. The oneness is everywhere, and we're all part of it, and it's all part of us. So.
All right, that's a good introduction to it. All right, so here we have it. So this is Land Without Evil, Scene 9. This is the theatrical production. Agent Red, Sky Candy, Lobo Sucio Productions. It's beautiful. It's very powerful. Enjoy.
The mission is gathering soldiers to rise up against us. They should find their way here before too long.
We must dance tonight and begin our journey tomorrow. I'll go gather the people.
I'm ready.
Utsike doshen baledisen. Watseki sabalutsen dalekisan drepun. Bitsamalitan kaletisan. Tore sepolitan kuretampun. Dole kai sobeleto kelaiton. Britsan balekisan. Britsen galedade. Hoshet kelefushan did it. Baledale lale lale fushan. Balelele kushan did it. Rapun. Repun. Resokuran.
It is also the beginning. It is all one.
Sabusan kalevisan ku tesang bolegis sabru karesetar kreson parisen serisan kresen shan kilekis shan balegis krata boletes rap sakoter sharaba sekanesis shan kalekis Isan balakisan mo sa malihai. Preke kisare botan. Preke proletana. Preke proletana. Pro proletare sestan. Ulo proletare kana. Prako puichanana. Preko shupoletan. Preke proletisa moletan.
Hi everybody, welcome back. So that was a pretty powerful video. That was pretty amazing. Scene 9, Land Without Evil. Go to the website, you'll see mattpallamary.com, you'll see links to it. You can see a lot more of it. And the incredible piece of healing art you see in between Matt and I is called Condorcita. It's a piece Matt did for the International Healing Art Project. Why don't you talk to us about it, sing to us about it, talk to us about it.
All right. Condorcita is very special and sacred. Where the American Indians have the eagle, in Peru and South America, it's the condor. And the condor is considered a sacred bird. It's considered the manifestation of love. In the Inca world, there are 3 levels. There's Sky Pacha, the Middle Pacha, and the Lower Pacha. And they're considered love, power, and wisdom, or truth, love, and energy. And each one is manifested by a color. So condor is the color of rose, which is love. The middle world is power, which is the jaguar or the puma, which is an electric blue. And the lower world is gold, represented by the serpent, which is wisdom. And the condor is considered sacred because it's not a predator. It eats carrion and turns it into something of beauty. So it's a very sacred bird. And in my 2nd year in the jungle, when I was doing an extended shamanic plant diet, an old shaman, everybody who asked him, he gave him a different, how old are you? He told everybody something different. He's very old. And he brought me the condor, and I had visions of the condor. And the condor came to me, and my whole body started moving like a condor, and my legs started flapping. And it just kept coming up and flying down through me. And every time it did, it was clearing me out and dumping all this energy and all these fears and all this darkness. So it's considered very sacred. I did a 2-year shamanic study program, and our group was called the Condors. And I didn't initially, that's how it happened. And the condor was my major healing bird. So it's very sacred and very near and dear to me. And in shamanism, the plants and the animals and the spirits are all honored as part of the one. And they're all energies, and they're all guidance, and they're all healers. So they're very much revered. So I thought I would sing a very short verse of a song in honor of Condor Spirit. So it's like this. Condorcita, que bonita, curandera, poderosa. It continues like that, and it goes on and on. An interesting thing, I got into the hummingbirds. So the condor came to me, and when an animal comes to you in the shamanic world, working with the plants, in this case, these are diets around the plant ayahuasca, which many people have heard about. And ayahuasca works with a number of different plants and a number of different energies, both plant and animal. And when you sing to the plants and the animals, and you honor them and you flatter them, and they come to you and they give you gifts. So there's a wonderful experience I had. I was working with ayahuasca for a number of years, and I was in a session one night, and all of a sudden my legs started going super fast, like, and my whole body started doing this. And it scared me a little bit. It was so powerful and intense. And so the next morning when we were doing an integration, one of my friends came in and said, I knew it was going to be a powerful session because just before the session, a hummingbird came right up to me. And right when he said that, I realized it was a hummingbird spirit that came to me. And in that same moment, the person beside me said, you were the hummingbird. And like it all happened like all in that one same moment. It's like, psh! It was like, whoa. And since then, the hummingbird has come to me in visions and even in reality when I do. In fact, just last year I was doing a diet in the jungle and this big hummingbird came and just like, hey, guess what? It's me, you know, and he took off. So there's a wonderful story from the Inca. It may even be pre-Inca, but it's about condor and hummingbird. Now, hummingbirds have been known to travel on the backs of condors to hitchhike. So there was this is a mythological story where all the beings gathered and said, we need somebody to go to the source, which we've talked about, the sun. We need somebody to go to the source to represent us. And Condor said, well, obviously it's me. I'm love, and I'm, gracing the skies, and I'm doing all this. And Hummingbird says, well, I think it should be me. And so the beings all said, well, we have to see who was it. Let's have a contest. So the day for the contest comes, and Condor shows up, and there's no Hummingbird. So they wait for a little while. Hummingbird just doesn't show up. So the beings all says, well, okay, Condor, you're here. You got to prove to us you're it. So you got to fly to the source. So Condor takes off, flies up to the source, and she's flapping her wings, and she gets very right up to the source, right up into the source, right close, and she flaps her wings up just like this, and Hummingbird shoots out and goes. So energetically, that Hummingbird is the very high frequency, and every time I've had the Hummingbird energies, it's been very high frequency, beautiful pastels, very loving, and if you start to see them and you start to acknowledge them, then you start to notice things that you hadn't noticed before. Another wonderful thing about shamanism and in my studies is that when you start to notice the plants and the animals, a lot of us go through our lives and we don't even notice what's going on around us. But in shamanism, you observe everything in nature. And when you start to observe and pay attention and honor them, like I just did a little bit, very small with Condor, they notice. And they start coming back to you, and they come to you in your dreams and in your visions. And one of the wonderful things that's happened to me that happens in shamanism is that this is an indigenous belief that I have experienced directly, and it's basically this. We go through our waking consciousness life like we are here now in three-dimensional reality as we know it. And then we have dreams, and then we have visions. And what has happened to me in my jungle diets is that my dreams and my visions started interweaving. And then my dreams and my visions and my real life started interweaving. And then they all became the same. And in indigenous cultures, dreams and visions and reality are all the same. Row, row, row your boat gently down the stream, merrily, 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 life is but a dream. I won't kill you singing that one. You get the message. But they all are considered the same thing. So they blend together, and then the magic of dreaming, where you can do anything you want when you start to master your dreams, lucid dreaming in other ways, and your visions, they all start to come, and then the magic flows into one, and then it all becomes one magical dream, which is how I live my life now. So the Condor is very special, and the Humming is very special. And then I've had periods of time where they were both fighting over me, and it was very sweet. It's like having two cute girls fighting over you, It's really a sweet thing. And
You're quite a catch for the animal kingdom.
That's what my girlfriend says. She says I'm an animal, but,
Right, what a catch. So you have a new memoir you're working, or it just came out, Spirit Matters?
Yes.
Why don't you talk a little about that? And
Yeah.
what,
I will.
Yeah, I'll hold it up.
Okay, yeah, quick. So Spirit Matters is my memoir, because what happened with what I'm talking about now is I've been writing fiction for over 30 years. And my life started getting weirder than anything I could think up. And so I decided to write this memoir, which starts off in Boston, where I grew up in the inner city, in Dorchester. The actor Mark Wahlberg is from my neighborhood, just to give you an idea of that. We call him Marky Mark. He's younger than me, but that's the neighborhood. I grew up in a tough neighborhood. I was raised Catholic, but there really wasn't any spirituality when I was growing up. And on my journey of searching for truth, I went from the concrete jungle of inner city Boston to the jungles of the Amazon, where I actually found my spirituality and my truth and my path. The path of ayahuasca and the plants is not for everybody. It's a very hard, challenging path, not something to be messed with, it's something to be taken very seriously. So Spirit Matters actually ends with my first diet in the jungle, and they call it a dieta. And it brought me the most profound experience of my life in terms of a spiritual experience, and had to do with the dreams and the wakings and the visions. I'm not going to say what it was because I know we don't have much time. Plus, if people really want to know, they're going to have to buy the book. But it ended up there in the jungle, and it's where I really learned the lessons and really made me realize that I was indeed on the right path. And I learned that everything is indeed energy, and everything is indeed connected. And it came to me through my work with the plants. So the last part, as I said, it ends in the jungle, And it's quite profound. And it won the San Diego Book Awards for the Best Spiritual Book, and it was an award-winning finalist in the National Best Book Awards. And I just released the audiobook of it, which I narrated. Came out very well. We're really proud of how that worked out. So it was a very powerful thing, and it's an introduction to shamanism, and it talks about a lot of wonderful experiences that I've had of direct connection with experience that came about through my work with the plants and through my work with ayahuasca, which teaches you about life, if that happens to be your path. I'm a little bit hard-headed. You know, that is my path. I got to do that. That's what works for me. But again, you can get there through meditation. You can get there yoga, just doing inner work. There's a million ways. And I really want to stress that it's not for everybody. It's not something to be taken lightly. It can be dangerous if you don't know what you're doing. And there are many people out there who pose as being gurus or leaders or that, and it's not safe. So you have to be very careful. But it's certainly changed my life and made things better for me. One little thing I can mention is that for me growing up as a street fighter in the inner city, I had no feminine side. I was hard. And I went for 30 years of my life without crying. And it wasn't like, I'm not gonna cry. It just wasn't there. And when I started working with the ayahuasca, which by the way they call the mother and the mother of all the plants and the mother spirit, and to me it's the voice of Mother Earth talking to me when I hear it. What happened is I reconnected with my emotions, and I went through periods where somebody could say one thing to me and I'd start bawling uncontrollably. One time my mom called me up and she said, "Happy birthday, honey," and just sweetness in her voice, and I just started bawling. And I was like, "Ooh," and she's like, "Are you okay, honey?" And I'm like, "Ooh," and she says, "Does this have anything to do with those plants you've been working with?" And I'm like, "Yes." She goes, "It's okay, honey. Have a good cry, and then you'll be okay." And then I got through it. But the amazing thing that happened after that, when I started reconnecting and getting rebalanced in that way, is my intuition just went right up there. And so did my telepathic experiences, which to me is more proof that the heart is superior, because my heart was really blocked off in that area because I had to be tough and I had to have a tough shell and a tough exterior to make it happen. So it was quite profound, and the visions I had and the connection with my mom and the mother spirit of the plants and the mother spirit of Mother Earth and the divine feminine, the goddess, is very deep. And it's a major aspect of shamanism, and it's one side of the whole, so to speak. You have to have it all. And one of the things that ayahuasca teaches you is everything. You have to see the light, you have to see the dark, you have to see it all.
It's all one.
That's right.
So would you say, actually I was just thinking that, that was like kind of the next question, that was like if you had to, give people the main or one, or somebody said, what was the most important lesson, the most important experience you had that you can put into words and that you could share with people, was that it, or would it be something else?
Well, that was the most profound, but because it is infinite, the universe, God, heaven is infinite. So it just continues to unfold in a geometric progression, which is multidimensional, and we are indeed far, far, far more than we realize and we can even begin to imagine. I mean, it truly is incomprehensible. And when you get into those parts of your mind that are non-rational and you tap into the intuition, it's superior. So I can tell a very quick, this maybe sum it up, African story. Has to do with lions hunting. And then when they're hunting the gazelle or the antelope, the older lions are losing their teeth and they can't hunt. So they go on one side of the herd, and the young, strong lions go to the other end. And the older lions just start roaring and roaring, and they freak out the gazelle and the antelope, and they start stampeding them. And then they go running away from the old toothless lions right into the young ones who are waiting for them. The moral of the story is always run toward the roar.
All right, well, that's a great way to end. So if you want any information on Matt, the books, the video, the Bridging International Healing Art Project, call me, Alan, 805-687-2053. Good night. We love you. Thanks for coming. Good night.